not specifically on your career, but more of an entire your whole life, what do you consider to be your greatest failure or challenge?
Yeah. Well, give me about 2 hours of your time, and I will discuss in painful detail probably what were most of my failures. I think, well, the first thing that I need to put into perspective about being an entrepreneur and having to work for a family business which is entrepreneurial in nature is that there is as much learning in failure as there is in success. And the one thing that I learned from reading, I think the book of Kiyosaki was saying that you don't work for money, you work for learning, di ba? So I guess that my whole life has been a learning experience in the Kiyosaki method. Okay, so I think one of my biggest failures, maybe professionally, was because, ever since I was younger, I always wanted to, achieve, do a lot of good work, and hopefully get into an MBA school. So for me, I worked very, very hard. I had a pretty good college career. I did a lot of extracurricular activities. It's like you're building up your resume to get a good job in order to get a good master's degree after. So after that one, I got into a multinational company. I was a brand manager there for the multinational company. So I said, okay, I've done my 2.5 years here. Maybe it's time to apply for graduate school. And I thought, wow, ideal naman yung aking record and everything else. And then, so I applied in my head. It was like, I wanted to go to Harvard. So I said, I wanted to go to Harvard. So I applied for Harvard, I think Kellogg and Wharton. When it came back, I was rejected. I felt so bad. So the first two felt bad, and Harvard was the last. And they said, okay, you're part of the last 10% that we can admit, and we want to interview you. So I was so excited, syempre, di ba? Because that was your dream, di ba? So I flew all the way to the States to get interviewed rather than do it on the phone, because it's something I really wanted to do. And then what happened was that, I flew there, I got interviewed, and 2 weeks later, I found out that I didn't get in. So it was a year of stepping back and saying, is everything that I have been planning for really what I want to do? So it became a realignment of priorities. And I was thinking, maybe God has something in store for me, but I am not too sure just what right now. Because it's like you say, how unfair naman? Because, your whole life you've been preparing for this type of situation and it doesn't happen. And then, a lot of things happened as a result of not getting in, actually. So I went back to school. I did a bit of audit classes for masters in MBA in computational finance. I was able to go back into media. I was doing some work for ABS-CBN. I made a lot of new friends at the time as well. And I found that there was another degree in MIT offering real estate development. So the next year, I reapplied and I got into the MIT Real Estate Development Program. So I finished that degree. And then I came back here. So for me, that was one of the biggest challenges at my mid-20s, to have actually parang everything that you have been looking forward to didn't push through. So, but apparently, although it sounds so cliche, as one door closed, another door opened up, and there were so many things which happened as a result. And now that you work for an entrepreneurial business, especially one that comes from your dad, diba? It's very difficult because I came from a very corporate atmosphere where everything was set for you, all the data was there, all the systems were in place, all the processes were there. Then you come to a place where there's nothing like that at all, diba? So it's very jarring if you think about it. So parang you're thinking, what am I going to do over here? You really feel at a loss. So like for me, working for a family business, it's a constant learning experience, particularly because you're balancing off your own corporate professional training, which usually is hard skills, like your finance, your marketing, these different things, with the softer skills, because these are people who have been here the longest time. How do you work with your dad? How can you disagree properly? Every day there's a learning, there's failure and success in this type of business, and you realize that if it's an entrepreneurial business, it's very difficult if you try to benchmark yourselves against friends or other people, because you say, wow, I'm 35 and this guy's 35 and he's making this much. Or if I was 35, how come I'm not how come I am not earning as much as my friend who's working in the corporate world? Maybe I should rejoin the corporate world, diba? So those thoughts always float in your mind. So it's really a struggle every day to be an entrepreneur. But then you realize also if you keep on benchmarking yourself against people, then there's a mistake in terms of you being an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur doesn't happen at a specific age or with a specific expertise, diba? There are people who can be 48 when they leave the corporate world. Try entrepreneurship, they fail. There are some who join at 50 years old and they still do good. Yeah. So I guess really for me, it's for me the idea of staying on, doing a good job, learning what you can from my dad, who's like the hard, school of hard knocks. Yeah. From my own personal training, which is also corporate, I think that's very important as well. And for me, I think. Also, being a constant scholar on your own is very important. Recently, I'm the editor-in-chief of Uno magazine, which is a men's lifestyle magazine. Like, that's one of my several jobs to make sure I can pay for my baby's diapers. So in Uno magazine, it gives me a great chance to meet with different entrepreneurs and talk to them. I had a great chance to talk to two people whom I admire very much. One is Joey Concepcion, who is the presidential advisor on entrepreneurship and also head of Go Negosyo and RFM. And I also got to meet with Wash Sisip, who, of course, is SGV and company. He put together AIM. He co-founded AIM in the Philippine, the PBSP, Philippine Business for Social Progress, which is a business advocacy group. The thing that I really learned from Wash, he says, I constantly expose myself to younger people, and I never see work as work because it's always exposure to learning new things from people. So he's always talking to people, learning from them, gaining information from them. He's always reading new things because he sees its relevance to him. And I think that's very important that I've imbibed myself. I'm always on the lookout for what's a new seminar I can attend, is there a new class I can do, because there's always new knowledge that's coming out that you didn't learn in school. Like the Blue Ocean strategy was not there when I was in school. So these are interesting things, or things like mind mapping or other courses which are out there right now. And then from Joey Concepcion is that you get the real sense of what entrepreneurship means, because he's met so many people with different business models. But what he really just put out in the end, he just says, it's really good product, good price, and although it's easy to say, it's how you execute it, which is very nice. And I can see from his trials, because what does he put up? Malunggay noodles, Vit water. And this guy's constantly coming up with new ideas. Also, he doesn't have to do it anymore.